Welcome everybody once again to my YouTube channel. This is your boy Uskubberg Mdingi, aka Uzam Dingi, the Skuberg, the rambling on big boy. The ramblings of a big man. Yeah, that's it. And anyway, guys, before we get anywhere, please click subscribe, click on the notification button, bell notification if you wanna hear more from me. You might not even see this video because it's one of my early videos, but basically that's me just rambling on a YouTube video, and basically I ramble on about my life and what interests me and what didn't interest me. And today is a good one because we'll be talking about a video that I'm hoping sheds light on where I am right now. Let me give you a little context. I'm 30 years old, I'm broke, and I think I failed at life. That's about the gist of it. It's a very simplistic view on one's life, but because if we really dig deep and investigate, you can always find something or a quality that you can take back and say, well, yeah, I was really good at this and I'm good at that, and you can hold it really close to your heart. But obviously, like right now, it's insane because every decision I've ever made felt right. Even though, and sometimes there were decisions that didn't feel right, but you were like, well, this is gonna work out at the end because you're gonna learn something. But yeah, I'm 30 years old, and I'm gonna get to the thing that I watched and the inspiration that it gave me. Because what I want to first get into is that we tend to be really hard on ourselves, and then we tend to then celebrate those people who kind of figure out life pretty well. I've got two friends. One is what up, Westlife. Check out his YouTube channel, incredible guy. This guy knew that he wanted to be in sport and be a sports physician, sports biokineticist out of school right away, which I don't know if he knew this, but I was always impressed by it. And another friend, and he, shout out to Pico, he wanted to be a sports journalist right away as well, and so he's doing that right now, and they're living incredible lives, and I'm really proud of them. But I always had a secret about, well, it wasn't a secret. I think friends who knew me and were close to me who knew this about me and probably were afraid to point it out to me. But I tend to lose interest in things because I'm a very multifaceted, multi-interested person. Most people are. It's just that some people are really good at finishing things and focusing things and having a linear focus on something. But I'm a dabbler. I'm a person who is one with the world. For example, I watch Grey's Anatomy. And in my mind, I'm like, can I cut people? Like, should I be studying medicine? I think I'll be great at surgery. Obviously, I shouldn't just on a whim start a 7-year degree to cut people up. But that's the case. And then you start linking what that possible move could mean by then looking back at your past and seeing, I don't know, relative interest. Like, for example, I did really well in biology in high school. You know, that's not to say that I should then be a doctor. It's just that I had an incredible biology teacher, and she was incredible, and I did well in it. Did decently in science, but didn't really like it. I love physics, but I hated chemistry, which I think is a really important facet of medicine. And so that's out. But my point is, I'm a person who's fascinated. I'm an easily fascinated person. And if somebody came to me and said, listen, here's a sport called badminton, you want to try it? Cool, I'm trying it. That's the type of person I am. If somebody said, listen, chess is a decent... For example, I played chess at school. I don't need chess right now. I don't use chess that much, but I did play it. And it's insane to think that the personality trait that I have as a dabbler is looked down upon in modern society simply because those guys aren't trustworthy. Those guys can flake on you in the very next year, but are so charismatic because they know exactly what it looks like to be really interested. I'm a person who's really interested. If you tell me about yourself, I'm really interested in you because you knew. I don't know who you are. But then old friends of mine will be like, yeah, Bulls hasn't called me in years. Well, that's another story about my flakiness, but I digress. My point is this: I always frowned upon it, and I had this internal anxiety and self-loathing about that until I watched this video. This video is about David Epstein, and it's a TED talk in Manchester in 2020 February, months before the pandemic hit. And I think it would have still related, and I think it's a video that a lot of people watched during the pandemic because it was systematic on why people go around searching for that why, or searching for that thing that brings passion into them and that they can make a career out of. I'm in that position. Right now, I'm 30 years old, I'm broke as I said, and I'm struggling. And the idea that this is self-inflicted, and the idea that this is, yeah, it's because you can't decide on anything, hurts. Because I think I'm smart enough and capable enough to choose something and stick it out and do really well at it, and then make a career. Right? And I thought it was always a weakness. But basically the name of the video by David Epstein is how falling behind can get you ahead. And I was so interested because naturally, by being a person who's not sure what he wants to do and the years go on and on and on, perpetually you're naturally a person who feels they're falling behind. And it doesn't help that I look over my phone and I look on Instagram and Twitter and I see people having babies, having marriages, and doesn't help I haven't dated in a while as well. And there's just this natural understanding that, hey, dude, you're letting life slip away from you, and it's a feeling that I wouldn't wish on anybody because it's internalized. And it's internalized and it hurts your brain, and it's the type of thing that keeps you up at night in a sweaty fit because you feel that time is running out, but time is moving slowly at the exact same time. It's a weird feeling. And so the video, I watched it, and let me give you a broad synopsis of what the video is. Basically, what David is saying is that the narrative that we're fed when it comes to excellence or when it comes to personal development is the Tiger Woods narrative. And why he chose Tiger Woods? Well, Tiger Woods started playing golf at 7 months years old. Well, his dad put a golf club in his hands at 7 months, and he consistently and vigorously practiced the sport until he became arguably one of the greatest to ever play it. That's simple. And that narrative is what's ingrained in us because it's linear and it's clean and it's easy to, I think, add repetition to it. Also, it has a certain level of dramatization to it, as David admits in the video, where people can be like, you started at 7 months? Oh my God, But what people don't realize is that same narrative can be paralyzing to somebody who's 30 years old and is going back to school, or is deciding to finally go to culinary school, or deciding to finally try their hand at music, or finally trying to teach themselves that language that they've been dying to teach. And the idea that I'm starting at 31 years old or 30 years old is bonkers. But the Tiger Woods narrative would destroy my self-confidence every time because in my mind, I'm like, I'm 20 and 29 years late. I should have started at 1. It's a horrible narrative for people who are not quite there yet. It's an incredible narrative for people who are 13, 12 to look at it and say, okay, if I start now, by 30 or 28 or 27 or 26 or 25, I'll be great. And so, but then in David's research, David Epstein's research and understanding, he researched and found out and realized that there is a group of athletes, group of musicians, group of outliers or people who don't go by the normal 10,000 hours to reach excellence level of things. This is probably going to filter into another video I watched, which is You Can Learn Anything in 20 Hours, which is great. I forgot the guy who spoke at the TED Talk, but basically he said that people are obsessed with expert level, and that's what the 10 hours reference when it comes to trying to learn something came from. But essentially, not everybody wants to be Roger Federer. Some people just want to be good enough at tennis to play every Sunday with their friends, right? Not everybody wants to be, I don't know who's a great French speaker or poet, but people want to have enough cognizant ability to speak French where if they go to France and speak to another French person, the person understands them, and vice versa. And so the 10-hour rule is kind of flawed because it adds an unsustainable constraint on people's ability to learn something. But the guy said no, at best, through research, it takes 20 hours, 45 to an hour learning sessions every day for a month to get to a level of proficiency in something. Music instrument, language, you name it. And so, going back to David Epstein's video, he basically says that most elite athletes go through a sampling period. And then sampling period, he means they go through a period of basically trying everything. And some go through this period in an accelerated rate, where the first 2 years they try musical instruments and so on, and then discover. He makes an example of a Duke Ellington, an incredible jazz artist, who didn't want music lessons when he was younger, concentrated on baseball, painting, other forms of art, and then went back to his proficiency and love for music when he got older. Roger Federer is another example, which really surprised me, that Roger literally played every sport in existence before eventually settling on tennis in his, early teens, like 10 or 11. Before that, he played rugby, badminton, skiing, wrestling, and during the sampling period, finally molded himself and finally found his way to tennis as the sport that he enjoyed and really wanted to get into. And what's weird is that story isn't told, because I think it's a story that would enlighten a lot of people who have the personality that I have. That, let me try this. Let me give you a little brief history. I played cricket in junior high school, rugby, bit of tennis, hockey, field hockey, not ice hockey, field hockey. Tried boxing, hated it. Bit of golf, never lasted too long. In university I arrived and I studied construction management. Moved to that and moved to development studies, which I really enjoyed. Never finished though. Went through that. Right now I'm studying law. During that period between me studying law and the last time I went to university, which was around about 2013, which in between is like 7 years. In that 7 years, I thought I could be an interior designer. I thought I could be a coder. I tried to teach myself code. As I said, I tried teaching myself language. I just downloaded Fruity Loops and I tried to start making music. That didn't start end well. I started to try to teach myself how to draw. That didn't work out. Right now, I recently did a certificate in digital marketing with Google, and this is why I'm starting this YouTube channel, because I'm hoping that these videos grow a following and that I can use this to then apply to jobs to show that I'm a person who can create a profile and use social media to its benefit, and be a social media marketer or social media manager. That's my dream, and well, that's my dream now. I'm realizing through that video that might only be my dream now. I watched a girl talk about investment banking, and I thought, well, investment banking is probably an option because I'm really interested in the market and stuff like that and so on. And so, as you can just see, I just told you 10 or 11 things. I ran out of fingers. That's how much things I've told you. Right now, I'm a law student, and even in that, I don't know. I'm going to dabble in a lot of law subjects. When I started law, my interest was copyright law and trademark law because I wanted to be in sports law. Now that I've dabbled in the law and I watched law and stuff, now I'm really into constitutional law and human rights law because that's who I think is a real lawyer. Later on, I realized that, I might like media law and publishing law and all that stuff, music law, where the publishing and the licensing of music and so on, because I want to be in music. It's a lot. It's a ton of things. But it just shows you that right now I'm in my sampling stage. Unfortunately, other people's sampling stages at best are 2 to 3 years. Mine are clearly 30 years in the making because I'm interested in everything. But why I say this video gave me hope is that it basically made me not hate myself, but it made me forgive myself for the hate I spewed to myself for not figuring it out on time. And so if you're out there watching this and you're 28 and you're working at your dad's shop, or you're working in a retail job but you really wanted to be a singer, or even you're not sure what you want, Gary Vee, one of my favorite producers of content, basically says, be a taster. Because my biggest fear in all of this has always been going down a road for 6 or 4 years and figuring out on year 6 that I hate this road, and then having to come back to the spot to then start a new journey. What the David Epstein video told me is that 6-year journey, while you decided not to carry on in that route, was not wasted, because the information, the talent, the growth you got through the 6-year period can always be transferred to something else, can always be used somewhere else. And if you go back to the Roger Federer example, he did skiing. You don't know if that skiing contributed to his ability and his balance to how he plays his backhand and forehand. He played badminton, so he developed his wrist pretty early. He played a bit of rugby. Rugby is spatial awareness, understanding where the gaps are and where your partner is. You might not need it in tennis, but it's an extra value-added thing to be able to have that spatial awareness and that eye-hand coordination. Probably played a bit of cricket. So cricket is how the ability to have shot selection and which shot to play for which delivery can be applied to tennis. Those experiences, or those few months of him playing those sports, weren't wasted. He didn't play a sport for a year and then came back and then became not proficient in any sport. He's still proficient at tennis or rugby or soccer, whichever sport he chose at that time. But he's not going to pursue it to be excellent, but he's still proficient. He still has a skill level that can be adopted and used into a very amount of skills. And that's my lack of understanding of choosing a path. It's okay to teach yourself how to make music for 2 years and then realize in the year 3 that you don't like it. But you then don't, but the thought process to me when I was self-loathing was, oh, now I have to start back at 0. I have to start back at the loser who knew nothing and decided to do music. I'm not that loser anymore. I'm a new loser who has 2 years experience of music in him. You get me? That 2 years experience can then be transferred to be a 2 year to start a journey in film. Oh, that's another interest of mine. Wanted to be a film. So David Epstein, in his video, is basically trying to show you that, listen, You might be being indecisive, which has always been termed as a characteristic of badness. If you can't figure it out by 20, you're an idiot. 25, 30, even 35, if you haven't figured it out, there's no hope for you. Oh yeah, I lost my train of thought, but basically, the reason why I always hated starting over was that the idea was that when I start over, I'm literally starting over. And what I had learned or done for that 4 or 5 year period is lost. It's not lost. Deep down inside, you know it's not lost, but because that thing didn't turn into the thing, it didn't turn into the great career, it didn't turn into the $1 million idea, it's not wasted. It's a waste. So for example, if I played cricket and tried in my university years and then at 23 realized that I'm not good or whatever and I just stopped, if somebody were to bowl a delivery at me at 30, I would still be able to play a cover drive or cut shot. Or if I still got a chance to bowl an elite batsman, I could still hold my own in terms of bowling or causing disruption. I can still play cricket. Even though I haven't played it in years and I've subsequently not played it anymore, I can still play the game. You don't lose it because you realize late on that you either don't like it or you're not that great at it. You don't lose that ability. You don't unlearn and be like, it's not like you then start over and then try another sport. It doesn't work like that. And because you have, and I started playing cricket at 9, so I stopped at 23, so that's at least 15 years experience, I think, 15, 14 years of experience. You just transfer those years or attributes of those years of playing cricket into something else. I think I used to be a great leader, I used to be a great presenter of men, leader of men, I used to great leadership skills, communication skills, used to be a great motivator. I can always transfer those skills, soft skills in cricket, into something else. Granted, I might not have to play a cover drive in the office, but I need to have the temperament of playing a long innings in an office. I might need to have the energy of a long day's play, the perseverance of bowling a line and length in an office setting, or in an investment banking setting, or in a music setting. You don't lose those 7 years. But the narrative, the world narrative, is that those 7 years are a waste and you basically have to backtrack and start at this point that you started at when you didn't have that 7 years of experience of cricket. You get me? I'm today years old to realize that that's not true. And so if you have fear in going into something because you fear that you might realize down the line that you don't like it, that's a crappy reason not to start. And Gary Vee, who's an incredible businessman and so on, basically admits that and then understands that people are frozen by the idea of basically giving up on this thing. I can't pay for example, right now, I applied at NSFAS, which is a national student loan in South Africa. I applied to that thing to study law that I'm currently in. I'm a third year law student. I realized late last year, I'm not the hugest fan of law. But the skill set and knowledge of law, if I don't eventually practice, isn't wasted. I still have a law degree. You get me? I still have a law degree. I might use that law degree to enter a workplace that requires a bachelor's degree or honors degree. You get me? It might not be a degree where my law is going to be effectively used, but effectively, if there are workplaces who say we're not choosing you because you don't have a degree. I have a law degree, and so I'm going to have a law degree. Sorry, I'm speaking in future, but I have a law degree, and so effectively, that law degree isn't a waste. And the understanding and the natural narrative that it's a waste if you don't end up using it to be a great lawyer or a great litigator or a great judge is where a lot of kids or a lot of young people get depression and anxiety, because their understanding is that every decision they make has to be right. It has to be. And that's where the video is making me happy and changing my life. The understanding that no, not every decision has to be right. In fact, every decision can inform the next one. And every decision and experience can inform the next experience to make you better, stronger, more well-rounded, and more multifaceted. Make you interesting. Thank you, David Epstein, for that video. And basically, in conclusion, he says there are two environments, and the one environment that we all taught is the kind environment. You start, you figure it out, you basically grow, and then you eventually excel. Period. It's clean, it's pristine, it's a narrative that we can duplicate, copy, replicate, and then give it to a ton of people as a narrative of how your life should be. It's not the case. The majority of us who excel in unkind environments or learn in unkind environments, effectively meaning the crucible that is your life that you went through and where you learned how to survive, learned how to excel, learned how to draw, learned how to bake, learned how to play cricket, learned how to play rugby, learned about technology, learned about medicine, learned about law, learned about digital marketing, learned about all of these skill sets will eventually inform the greatest version of you. Now, I will not lie, I'm hoping that that great version of myself avails itself sooner rather than later. This pandemic has basically accelerated my wanting of excellence in my life. But as a lot of people admit out there, having patience, at the same time urgency, to keep trying all of these things to find it, but eventually find what you want. But having the patience to understand that if you're going to try 20 things, it might be the 90th thing that is your thing. I said thing 3 times, but basically that's it. Anyway, guys, this has been an incredible time. I'm thankful for this video. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and yeah, shout out to all my friends, shout out. So anyway, this is an incredible video. Don't forget to subscribe, check out my other videos. I'm gonna link a description, put a link in the description of the video by David Epstein and his TED Talk. It's incredible. Watch it for yourself and figure out if what he's saying is incredibly true for you, or if you just knew from the get-go what you're going to be. Escaped.